Resting his chin on his hand, the silver-haired prince muses aloud that things cannot continue as they are, coldly noting he might be kicked out and left to die on the streets. Light erupting radiantly from her outstretched hand, the blue-haired girl declares her desperate gamble, vowing to sell herself because she alone can wield the light. The scene shifts to a swaying carriage where a cloaked young woman gazes silently out the window toward the distant Dinkel Frontier. A few days earlier, a smug man behind a grand desk informs Luana that she has been officially chosen for dispatch to the frontier lands of Dinkel. Standing stiffly across the vast library, a bewildered Luana quietly asks what such a decree could possibly mean, and the man smirks that it means exactly what it sounds like. Fixing her with a pointed stare, he explains that a mage from their Altamira County family has been ordered to the frontier, and they have decided to send her. Gazing out the tall arched windows, a stunned Luana bitterly reminds herself that she is not even a true member of the noble Altamira family. Grinning with unmistakable malice, the man declares that she was chosen precisely because she is the most suitable candidate for this dangerous dispatch. Barely finding her voice, a shaken Luana softly begs their pardon, only for the woman to coldly command her to hurry up and get lost, sneering that she has nothing more to say. Covering her smile with delight, the woman gleefully declares what a relief it is to know she will never have to see Luana's face again for the rest of her life. Cutting sharply through the tension, the man behind her calmly calls out Luana's name once more. Gliding down the sunlit corridor alone, Luana silently accepts their cruel decree, resigning herself to becoming their sacrifice while they insist she need not do anything at all. Walking through the empty halls, she recalls being born an illegitimate child to a common mother, brought to the house of Altamira only after her mother died of illness when she was 10. Wearing a quiet, resigned expression, she reflects that because she was never a real family member, she has been despised from the very beginning she arrived. Arm in arm with her cultured brother, an elegant sister sweetly asks if Luana needed something, admitting she merely wanted one last look at her face before their dirty little sister vanishes forever. Feigning astonishment, the sister gasps in mock disbelief, taunting that Luana does not even know where she is being sent. Leaning in with sadistic grins, the siblings offer to specially tell her since it is the last time, gleefully explaining this is exactly why they despise ignorant fools. Savoring his cruelty, the handsome brother promises once more to reveal the truth about Dinkel specially, since this is the final time they will ever speak. A sweeping map unfolds as they reveal that the Dinkel Frontier is a land of death, constantly besieged by monsters whose activity has recently surged into a relentless invasion. Folding her hands with serene malice, the sister confesses that neither she nor Brother Gunnera wishes to die, which is precisely why one person from their mage lineage was condemned to the deadly frontier instead. Wearing a hollow, defeated expression, Luana absorbs the cruel verdict that it was simply decided she would go. Bitterly noting these people never taught her a single spell despite their mage name, she flatly murmurs that she sees Dinkel means endless frontline battles against monsters. Laughing with poisonous glee, the sister mocks her as a worthless foster sister, sweetly thanking her for becoming their sacrifice while the brother marvels she turned useful. Privately, Luana realizes they expect her to tremble and turn pale, waiting hungrily for her terrified reaction like the hopeless people they are. Shattering their expectations, she beams radiantly and thanks her brother and sister for informing her, brightly vowing to do her absolute best on the front lines. Caught completely off guard, the sister snaps that she probably will not even be useful as a meat shield, while the brother mutters how boring her reaction turned out to be. The scene shifts to a bleak, sunless space as Luana quietly reveals that this cramped attic with almost no light is the only room she was ever given. Curled alone in the darkness, she recalls being endlessly branded a lowly commoner's child by the family that despised her. She bitterly explains that she alone was born with blue hair among a red-haired family, bullied and starved, though a small reason lies behind it. Clutching her suitcase with quiet resolve, she vows she has no intention of dying easily, marveling that she has finally arrived at the Margrave's enormous estate. Snapping to attention, a nervous Luana answers yes as a stern servant beckons her forward, urging Lady Luana to follow this way into the grand halls. Studying the imposing lord ahead, she notes the striking man is Clovis Ethan Dinkel, marveling that despite being her father's age, his aura makes him look impossibly young. Guiding her before the throne, the servant respectfully announces to his master that he has brought the promised person from the Altamira County family. Staring in visible confusion, the lord utters a bewildered "huh," demanding the meaning of this, since a proper mage was supposed to arrive from the Altamira lineage. Narrowing his sharp gaze at the small figure, An incredulous Clovis demands to know whether they truly expect him to believe this scrawny child is the promised mage. Sighing heavily, the frustrated lord grumbles that the Altamira family has grown far too arrogant under the imperial faction, having brazenly insisted this girl is the mage. Recovering her composure, a bright-eyed Luana cheerfully introduces herself as Luana Chiel Altamira and reveals she is 15, prompting the stunned lord to repeat her shocking age. Explaining her origins, she reveals the lineage holds a son and daughter both over 18, while she is a barely known illegitimate child of merely 5 years in the house. Turning it over coldly, Luana deduces these cowards simply shipped off a hidden illegitimate child whose existence they would gladly conceal from the world. Flinching under his blistering glare, a nervous Luana admits his aura is genuinely a little scary, while the exasperated Margrave silently curses how wretched the situation is. Steeling her fraying nerves, Luana firmly reminds herself she has no time to be intimidated, silently wondering what she should do now. Clenching her resolve, she reaffirms her sole purpose, having come all this way to sell herself to this powerful man. A servant suddenly announces that he has summoned Lord Sieghart, and the Margrave grants permission to enter the Grand Chamber. Studying the newcomer, Luana marvels at the tall young man with a beautiful face as Clovis warmly welcomes Sieghart and asks how the front line fares. Reporting evenly, Sieghart admits they are sustaining casualties but holding back the monster invasion, calling it the usual, prompting a stunned Luana to realize this is Lord Clovis's own son. Fixing her with a sharp look, an unimpressed Sieghart bluntly demands to know what this brat is, leaving Luana blinking in wounded confusion at the insult. Explaining calmly, Clovis reveals that child hails from the Altamira County family and is in fact the very same age as Sieghart, while a mortified Luana reveals that he called her a brat twice. Turning his piercing gaze on her, a skeptical Sieghart demands whether that is truly the case, and a defiant Luana firmly insists that it is. Mocking her openly, Sieghart sneers that her looks might match her age but her speech and actions are utterly childish, while Luana marvels that despite resembling his father, their auras feel completely different. Bickering back and forth, the two young rivals snap that they absolutely will not get along, just as Clovis dryly remarks how good it is that they seem likely to become fast friends. Suddenly recalling her mission, Clovis prompts her that she was trying to say something earlier, and a flustered Luana affirms she must sell herself here without delay. Declaring her worth boldly, Luana insists she will definitely prove useful on the battlefield, admitting she may be inexperienced as a mage but can still wield magic, or else be thrown away to die in a ditch. Scoffing coldly, Sieghart challenges whether she truly believes that merely being able to use magic means she is fit to fight. Meeting his challenge head-on, a resolute Luana declares that she absolutely can, letting the weight of her conviction hang in the air. Explaining her gift, she reveals she wields a rare magic that is none of the 4 great elements, a radiant power blooming beneath her feet as Sieghart stares in astonishment. Unleashing her ability, Luana conjures a brilliant burst of golden radiance, breathlessly declaring that she can use light while a stunned Sieghart repeats the word in disbelief. Reflecting quietly in her memory, she admits she has only ever used this light to illuminate the darkness of her lonely attic, honestly uncertain whether the power is even strong. Humming thoughtfully, she confesses that even after reading that light magic was rare in a book, she could scarcely bring herself to believe it. Softly murmuring her name, an intrigued Clovis studies her glowing face and muses that she might actually prove useful after all. Gaping in overwhelmed delight, Luana marvels that she can have this entire room to herself, while a baffled Sieghart reminds her that her own noble house was surely just as fancy. Marveling breathlessly at the opulent chamber, Luana explains that as an illegitimate child she spent all her time in a lightless attic, gushing that this room is truly amazing. Falling quiet, Sieghart studies her from the doorway and murmurs a low, thoughtful, "I see." Suddenly narrowing his eyes, he demands to know why on earth she keeps addressing him with such casual, familiar speech. Firing back evenly, Luana reminds him they are the same age and points out that he too is speaking casually to her, calling him Sieg, while he counters that he remains skeptical she is really 15 given how small she is. Bristling with wounded pride, she snaps how rude that is, insisting she is only small because she was never fed properly. Instantly regretting her outburst, a flustered Luana panics that she just sounded like she was fishing for pity, while a subtle flicker of understanding crosses Sieghart's watching eye. Correcting her sharply, he declares that Sieg is a nickname reserved only for his father and mother, warning her not to call him that so casually, and formally states his name is Sieghart. Softening slightly, he advises Luana that she will likely be sent to the front lines soon and urges her to rest while she can, prompting a quiet, grudging agreement. Turning toward the door, Sieghart takes his leave as Luana murmurs her thanks for the advice. Watching him go, a puzzled Luana wonders if he was actually worried about her, cautiously guessing that perhaps he is kinder than his cold face suggests. Alone in the dark, she admits he is right that if she fails to prove useful on the front lines she might be cast out, and worse still, she could simply die fighting there. Steeling her fragile resolve, she vows she must do her absolute best from now on, while elsewhere Sieghart approaches his father with a quiet, "Father." Reporting back, Clovis praises the servant's good work and asks whether Luana liked the room, marveling that she was as impressed as if she had toured the imperial palace itself. Frowning skeptically, Sieghart presses his father on why that scrawny runt was dispatched to this deadly battlefield, questioning whether she truly hails from the Altamira County family. Answering calmly, Clovis notes she claimed to be an illegitimate child, but reasons that no matter how well hidden, an investigation will surely uncover the truth. Voicing his own doubts, Sieghart admits he too is suspicious she is really his age, and wonders aloud whether a family would genuinely persecute their own daughters so cruelly. Studying her small, frail figure, the men privately note that even illegitimate she remains his daughter, marveling at how tiny and starved she looks and wondering just how little she was ever fed. Lecturing her gently, Sieghart tells Luana that having rarely moved in social circles she would not know, but there is scum among the nobility too, likely even more than among common folk. Concluding thoughtfully, Clovis sets her murky family situation aside for now, deeming it fortunate above all that Luana wields the rare gift of light magic. Pressing eagerly, Sieghart asks whether light magic is truly so remarkable, while a stunned Luana admits her own radiance was certainly dazzling, yet she herself remains uncertain of its true worth. Gazing at her with quiet intensity, Sieghart promises that she will understand everything by tomorrow, cryptically declaring that in this frontier land, Luana will become a Saintess. Pressing her small hand against the window, a wide-eyed Luana absorbs the strange, weighty prophecy in stunned silence. The scene shifts to the day after her dispatch as a sacrifice, where a trembling Luana clutches her hands and stares out at the monster-ravaged battlefield. Cutting through her fear, Sieghart teasingly asks the shorty whether she is nervous. Silently overwhelmed, Luana admits the harsh stench of blood makes this a far crueler place than she imagined, yet steels herself that she can do this on her very first battlefield, quietly confessing it would be a lie to say she is not scared. Whipping around, a flustered Luana sputters denials while Sieghart strides past, dryly scoffing, "Yeah, right," at her transparent bravado. Advising her over his shoulder, Sieghart tells her to simply fall back if she gets scared since it would be a pain if she pushed herself and died, urging her to follow later only if she is fine, leaving Luana gaping that he himself feels no fear at all. Watching in awe, Luana marvels that he is truly amazing as Sieghart hurls himself into battle. Descending fearlessly into the swarming horde, Sieghart cuts the monsters down one after another as a stunned Luana looks on. Bursting with fiery admiration, Luana cheers that he is so cool and hails him as her hero, sheepishly admitting she had wanted to knock the arrogant Sieghart down a peg, just as he calmly announces that she is up next. Steeling herself with a shaky breath, a determined Luana answers with a resolute yes. Rising to her task atop the tower, Luana reminds herself that what she must do is shine her light upon the darkness of these monsters. Thrusting her arms skyward, she cries that she does not know how much help she will be, but she will simply do her absolute best with what she can, unleashing a brilliant burst of pure light. Illuminating the entire battlefield in a single radiant instant, her conjured light causes the monsters to rapidly weaken as the astonished onlookers watch it all unfold. Seizing the opening, Sieghart roars a fierce command for everyone to finish the monsters off now. Marveling at the sudden turn, the awestruck soldiers gasp that it is incredible how the monsters are being defeated one after another. Peering anxiously over the ledge, a breathless Luana wonders whether the monsters have truly fallen, confessing she had absolutely no idea light magic held such devastating power. Whirling toward the crowd, Sieghart boldly proclaims to the stunned soldiers that the lady standing there is the true savior of this entire battle, leaving a mortified Luana stammering in flustered disbelief. Beaming radiantly, Sieghart throws his arms wide and joyfully hails Luana as the Saintess, while she gapes back at him with tearful, overwhelmed astonishment. And so, as her very first battle finally draws to a close, a bewildered Luana can only echo the word Saintess in dazed, trembling wonder. Grinning at the dazed girl, Sieghart teasingly hails her as the Saintess, while a wave of exhaustion crashes over Luana now that the danger has finally passed. Puffing out her cheeks, Luana sourly grumbles that she would like to punch him just once for the stunt. Stretching lazily without a care, Sieghart boasts that he went to all the trouble of boosting her reputation, prompting Luana to demand who on earth asked him to. Doubling over with glee, Sieghart cackles that her crying reaction to the title was a pretty big hit with everyone. Watching the pair bicker fondly, the imposing Margrave Clovis remarks how truly wonderful it is that the two of them get along so well. Extending a gracious hand, Clovis congratulates Luana on surviving her very first battle and warmly invites her to join them for a meal later. Blinking in stunned disbelief, a flustered Luana stammers that she is not sure whether joining them is really allowed. Smiling easily, Sieghart agrees it is no trouble at all, and Clovis pointedly asks his son whether he is fine with it too. Gazing quietly at nothing, Luana wonders with a pang how many long years have passed since she last shared a meal with anyone. Later at the table, Clovis gently asks how the food is, and Sieghart admits with feeling that it is truly delicious. Softening into a rare, genuine smile, Clovis murmurs that he is glad to hear it. Marveling at the beautiful room and the luxurious spread, Luana privately admits she once thought Clovis frightening, yet finds him surprisingly kind when he smiles. Digging in heartily, Sieghart groans that he is always starving after a battle, while Luana quietly senses that nothing should make her happier, and yet. Draining his cup between bites, Sieghart complains that no matter how much he eats, it never seems to be enough. Reaching over with a cheerful, delicious, Sieghart snatches food straight from her plate, and a scandalized Luana squeaks in protest as Clovis scolds his son for the rudeness. Flashing a knowing smirk, Clovis assures the panicking girl it is not about the stolen bite, insisting he does not mind at all that Sieghart ate it. Fixing her with a perceptive gaze, Clovis gently observes that she does not have to force herself to eat everything on her plate. The scene stills as Luana recalls the corpses of monsters and the reek of blood on her first battlefield, realizing with a jolt that the Margrave has seen right through her. Lowering her eyes, Luana confesses inwardly that the brutal sights and smells had killed her appetite, and yet here she sits, sharing a meal with others for the very first time. Beaming with sudden wonder, Luana asks if that is truly so, and Clovis reassures her not to worry, since even seasoned warriors usually lose their appetite at first. Chuckling warmly, Clovis confides that Sieghart could not eat a thing after his own first battle either, forcing food down only to bring it right back up, as a mortified Sieghart yelps for his father to stop. Flushing scarlet, Sieghart protests that they should not be lumped together since his first battle came at 12, a wholly different age from this kid, while Clovis calmly insists it is simply the truth. Waving her hands with an embarrassed flush, Luana begs him to please say no more, and Clovis presses on slyly, noting that on that night, Sieghart too had. Watching their easy exchange bring a smile to her face, Luana marvels quietly to herself that so this is what a real family feels like. Later, tucked into an unfamiliar bed, Luana glumly reflects that in the end Sieghart devoured every scrap of her food, and now she simply cannot sleep. Curling beneath the covers, Luana reminds herself that she must return to the battlefield tomorrow and ought to rest, and yet sleep will not come. Squeezing her eyes shut with a small shudder, Luana admits that the harrowing sights from the battlefield refuse to leave her mind. Startled by a sudden knock, Luana rises with unease and wonders aloud who on earth could be calling at such a late hour. Opening the door to find Sieghart bearing a tray, a flustered Luana blurts his nickname, then panics at the slip while he coolly announces he is coming in. Recovering with a bright, teasing smile, Luana chides him for entering a woman's room so suddenly and without warning. Fixing her with a flat stare, Sieghart retorts that if she wants to be treated like a woman, she should say so only after she has grown up a bit more. Setting the cups down, Sieghart gruffly orders her to hurry up and come sit over here, and a bewildered Luana meekly obeys. Peering at the steaming cup of hot milk, Luana hesitantly asks whether she may really drink it, and Sieghart taunts that he will happily drink it himself if she cannot handle even that, spurring her to insist she can. Cradling the warm cup, Luana feels her chilled body and heart thaw at once, admitting she never once had a warm drink in all her time at the Altamira house, and murmurs how delicious it is. Sipping quietly to hide his own near slip, Sieghart thinks that was close, while a teary-eyed Luana softly thanks him by name. Turning the cup in her hands, Luana wonders whether Sieghart made this for her himself, realizing the cooks and servants should all be fast asleep at this hour. Studying his profile as he drinks, Luana concedes that he can be mean sometimes, and yet. Beaming with quiet contentment, Luana thanks him for both the meal and the milk, privately concluding that he is kind after all. Meeting his gaze, Luana adds her thanks for earlier at dinner as well, and Sieghart simply answers with a low, easy yeah. Settling in beside her, Sieghart asks if she has warmed up now, and Luana softly answers yes, the frost around her heart quietly melting at last. Grinning at her confusion, Sieghart bluntly orders her to get in bed already, leaving a bewildered Luana to blink out a startled huh. Flustered beyond words, Luana yelps a panicked string of what's as Sieghart curtly commands her to come. Leaning over the bed, Sieghart holds out his hand and tells her to give it to him, while a baffled Luana can only echo the word back in confusion. Gazing down at her with a soft smile, Sieghart clasps her hand tightly and murmurs that he will hold it just like this, so she should go to sleep already. Averting his reddening face, Sieghart mutters that it is nothing, as Luana studies him with wide, wondering eyes and thinks what a rude kid he is, and yet. Turning to face the window, Sieghart quietly admits that he is only doing something that was once done for him. Blinking up at him in surprise, Luana softly repeats that something was done for Sieghart. Recalling the memory, Sieghart confides that after his own first battle he could not sleep, and his mother had held his hand exactly like this. Struck by the mention, Luana realizes with quiet curiosity that she has never once met Sieghart's mother. Bracing herself, Luana gently ventures a question about his mother, and Sieghart answers simply that his mother is not here. The scene stills as Luana absorbs his words, unsure whether illness or a monster on the battlefield took her, yet sensing the grief beneath. Softening with fellow feeling, Luana confides that she too lost her own mother before being sent to the county house, murmuring that Sieghart is just like her. Cradled in his larger, stronger grip, Luana remembers how her own mother used to hold her hand like this to help her sleep when she was little. Beaming through a rising blush, Luana confesses that being brought here as a sacrifice for the county house had, to be honest, come as a relief, his hand comfortable rather than painful. Curling small upon the vast bed, Luana admits the deepest reason was that she would no longer have to be alone in that pitch-black room. Lowering her eyes, Luana confesses that seeing the battlefield for the first time and drowning in all that blood and its smell had, to be honest, frightened her, leaving her anxious about whether she can keep fighting. Closing her eyes with a fragile calm, Luana whispers that even so, for her. Gazing steadily ahead, Sieghart quietly declares that this frontier is the only place he has left. Smiling faintly to herself, Luana resolves that she will do her best, since she must keep selling herself from here on, and Sieghart lets slip a soft, amused chuckle. Drifting towards sleep with a small, contented smile, Luana murmurs that she really is starting to feel at ease here at last. Holding fast to her hand, Sieghart tells her he will stay just like this, so she should simply go to sleep, while a drowsy Luana murmurs that tomorrow too she will do her best. Curling her fingers around his in the quiet dark, Luana breathes out a small, heartfelt thank you. Watching her breathing slow, Sieghart notes softly that she seems to have finally fallen asleep. Gazing down at her sleeping face, Sieghart privately admits that, seeing the power of light on the front line for the first time today, she really is still just a kid. The scene recalls the battlefield, her arm flung skyward in radiant light, that rare magic a healing power for people yet a lethal threat to monsters, and Sieghart confesses how it caught him off guard. Pressing a thoughtful hand to his chin, Sieghart admits he finally understood what his father meant when he said this girl could become a Saintess. Lowering his gaze wryly, Sieghart concedes that in the end he is the one who set her up as the Saintess, recalling that the look on her face back then was pretty funny, and yet. Studying her serene features, Sieghart reflects that no matter what miraculous power she holds, she is still just an ordinary person underneath. The scene drifts back to a small Luana trailing behind her family, persecuted all this time, dwarfed by a stepmother's opulent gown. Softening as he watches her, Sieghart notes she is even smaller and frailier than a normal person, remembering that when his own time came, his mother had been there beside him. The narration turns somber, observing that this girl is utterly alone, hauled to a distant frontier and thrust straight onto the battlefield, unable to flee even if she wished to. Reaching gently toward her sleeping hand, Sieghart resolves that at the very least he should do for her what his mother once did for him, since he is something like a big brother to her now. Beaming radiantly in her sleep as he strokes her hair, Luana murmurs a tender thank you and breathes out his full name. Leaning close with an unusually soft expression, Sieghart tells her that just Sieg is fine, and that he will allow the nickname specially. The scene shifts forward through passing seasons, 1 month, half a year, marking the time since Luana first came to the Margrave's household. Standing amid glittering light in fine new clothes, an older Luana turns as the title Saintess drifts past, and the narration notes that a full year has now passed. Walking the sunlit corridor, Luana reflects that she has grown thoroughly used to being called Saintess, exchanging easy good mornings with the household staff. Pausing in profile, Luana observes that the hair she once hacked off in rough, messy tufts has been lovingly tended by the mansion's servants until it falls to her chest, and though Sieg once mocked her for being short, the gap between them has shrunk to about a head. Falling into step beside her, a taller Sieghart teases with a lazy smile that if she does not hurry, there will not be any food left. Grinning up at him, Luana admits it still irritates her when he calls her Saintess, noting that though he is as sharp-tongued as ever, at some point he quietly stopped getting mad whenever she used his nickname. Nudging her along the corridor, Sieghart reminds her that they will train again today after breakfast, and Luana answers breezily that she knows. Rounding the corner to greet the Margrave, Luana and Sieghart brightly bid him good morning, and Clovis warmly returns the greeting to them both. The narration notes that mornings now mean the three of them sharing breakfast in the dining hall, as someone cheerfully declares that they should eat. Snatching food straight off her plate again, Sieghart smugly announces he will take this too, drawing a scandalized shriek from Luana. Puffing up with indignation, Luana scolds that it is terrible manners, while Sieghart lazily counters that nobody is watching, so where is the problem, prompting her to remind him there is a lady right here. Bristling furiously, Luana demands to know what he just said, as a grinning Sieghart needles that she lacks the refinement to be called a lady. The narration observes that this bickering has become a familiar daily scene, while Clovis sips his tea and remarks how good it is to see the two of them getting along again today. Puffing out his chest, Sieghart boldly boasts that today he will hunt even more monsters than his father. Smirking with amusement over his cup, Clovis drawls that this sounds entertaining. Recalling she was meant to arrive here as a mere sacrifice, Luana playfully asks when the Margrave's prime will end, and Clovis loftily declares he will be in his prime his whole life. The narration turns inward, admitting that somewhere along the way she began to feel it was truly all right for her to be here. Gazing softly into the light, Luana confesses that she started at last to find genuine comfort in this new life. Gripping her practice spear with fierce resolve, Luana insists that this is exactly why she must contribute in whatever way she possibly can. Lunging at her mid-drill, Sieghart barks that she must predict her opponent's movements and never dodge only after she sees the strike, snapping that she is far too slow. Panting and doubled over, Luana breathlessly yelps a desperate yes as Sieghart watches with a cool, measuring gaze. Lowering his spear, Sieghart asks why she pushes herself so hard, insisting she already contributes plenty and need not learn close combat since casting spells from the rear would be far safer. Straightening with a wry smile, Luana quietly concedes that he is right, and Sieghart presses that there are, in fact, two reasons behind her stubbornness. Lifting her chin, Luana admits that the first reason is simply that she does not want to die. Furrowing his brow, Sieghart scoffs that this is contradictory, demanding why someone who does not want to die would fight on the front lines at all. Beaming with quiet resolve, Luana answers that the second reason is because she came here to sell her worth to the Margrave's household. Turning her back on Sieghart, Luana quietly explains that if she ever becomes unnecessary she will be discarded, and without a place here she simply cannot survive. Pressing further, Sieghart asks what her second reason could possibly be, and Luana softly begins to answer. Gazing at her with unreadable calm, Sieghart listens as Luana radiantly confesses that being needed by someone is what truly makes her happy, and he decides that is enough training for today. Meeting his eyes with brimming sincerity, Luana softens as Sieghart gruffly warns that her collapsing on the front lines from overexertion would be nothing but a nuisance. Sheathing his practiced sword with feigned indifference, Sieghart mutters that she should not push herself too hard, and Luana brightly agrees. Thrusting her palm forward as a beast lunges, Luana unleashes her dazzling spell and cries out for radiant light to burst across the field. Erupting into blinding brilliance, her magic scatters the monsters as a soldier shouts for everyone to strike now while the Saintess's power still holds. Watching the light fade among the murmuring knights, Sieghart overhears them marveling that the Saintess's magic is incredible yet again today, and flatly agrees. Standing apart with a faint, complicated expression, Sieghart listens to the soldiers praise the Saintess as the savior of the Dinkel Frontier whose mere casting makes fighting monsters so much easier. Bracing her arms wide, Luana pours her light outward as knights and beasts clash beneath the shimmering cascade of her power. Narrowing his eyes in quiet thought, Sieghart inwardly notes that they praise her so freely even though not one of them knows how hard she truly works. Breaking the moment with his usual sharpness, Sieghart curtly orders the men to hurry up and deal with the lingering monsters. Sweeping his arm toward the field, Sieghart explains that the stragglers will only be in the way if they are not cleared before the next horde arrives. Gazing up with weary, luminous eyes, Luana listens as a devoted soldier gently insists that she must be tired and should please rest. Beaming despite her exhaustion, Luana waves off the fussing knights who gush that she is not just a saintess but a goddess, kind and beautiful, while she pleads to help clean up as well. Grinding his teeth as the soldiers dote endlessly on Luana, Sieghart wonders in baffled irritation why he is suddenly so annoyed, then snaps at them to hurry up and clean. Whipping around at a sudden snarl, Sieghart watches in alarm as a surviving beast lunges and someone screams for him to watch out. Twisting to parry with a sharp click of his tongue, Sieghart barely deflects the fanged monster as horrified voices cry that they must have missed one. Lunging with her hand outstretched toward the danger, Luana races to reach Sieghart as the straggler bears down on him. Slamming her palm to the ground, Luana's summoning circle blazes to life as she cries out for a blinding whiteout to engulf the field. Wincing amid the blinding glare she unleashed, Luana frantically apologizes for acting without thinking while the dazzled soldiers cry that they cannot see a thing. Reaching out toward Sieghart with flustered concern, Luana breathlessly calls his name as he steadies himself against the lingering brilliance. Seizing a soldier by the collar with sudden fury, Sieghart hauls the man up as an alarmed exclamation bursts overhead. Recoiling in shock, the other knights shout Sieg's name while a bewildered Luana clutches her chest and stammers for him to wait. Baring his teeth in a cold, cutting smile, Sieghart demands to know why they let one escape and whether they dropped their guard just because the beast was weakened. Glaring with quiet, simmering venom, Sieghart icily asks if they are kidding him. Rushing to his side in alarm, Luana desperately pleads for Sieg to stop, insisting that is enough. Whirling on her with raw frustration, Sieghart roars whether she is not angry, since it was because of them that she got dragged into this too. Beaming up at him with luminous reassurance, Luana insists she is perfectly fine, so everything is okay. Clasping her hands together as the shamed soldiers hang their heads, Luana gently concedes that one truly should not lower their guard on the battlefield, but she is certain the men are already reflecting on their mistake. Falling into a heavy, wordless silence, Sieghart only stares at her with an unreadable expression. Turning away with a cold exhale, Sieghart mutters a curt whatever as Luana softly calls after him. Watching his retreating back with a conflicted frown, Sieghart privately admits he does not actually have the right to yell at them like that. The scene shifts back to the battlefield, where Luana flings out her hand toward the danger as a soldier scrambles desperately to reach her. Standing radiant and unflinching before the looming beast, the small Saintess faces the shadow head-on with light streaming around her. Crying out silently for her mother in the searing white blaze, Luana pours everything into the desperate spell. Later that evening, Luana cheerfully remarks that another day ended safely, recalling how the soldiers failed to finish off one of the monsters and were nearly attacked. Clutching the memory with wide, earnest eyes, Luana notes that she activated a monster-erasing spell on pure instinct, and it did not turn into anything serious, and yet. Lingering on the image of Sieghart hauling the soldier up by the collar, Luana quietly replays the frightening tension of that moment. Gazing thoughtfully into the distance, Luana confesses she had never seen Sieg look that frightening before, admitting the soldiers were at fault for lowering their guard, and yet the way he grew so angry then unsettles her still. Standing apart in the dappled forest as Sieghart turns to leave, Luana watches his retreating figure with a quiet unease she cannot name. Caught in a split frame between her trembling face and his shadowed profile, the two remain worlds apart even as her heart strains toward him. Wondering aloud whether something has happened to Sieg, Luana recalls with a pang how incredibly pained he had looked. Later at the grand dining table, Clovis warmly tells Luana she did good work today, and she distractedly returns the courtesy before hesitantly asking about Lord Clovis and Sieg. Meeting her searching gaze, Clovis quietly explains that Sieg said he would be eating in his room today, and Luana can only murmur that she sees. Sitting before the muffled clink of her lone teacup, Luana finds that the quiet table without Sieg feels strangely unsettling. Casting her mind back to that very morning, Luana remembers how they were trading light banter and still enjoying their meal together. Reflecting on how far she has come, Luana marvels that it has been 1 whole year since she arrived at the Dinkel Frontier, and compared to the 5 years locked away in the attic, This single year felt far more fulfilling. Gazing fondly at Clovis and a scowling Sieghart, Luana acknowledges that the reason she could spend such a fulfilling year is thanks to Lord Clovis and Sieg. Picturing Sieg's rare, unguarded smile, Luana holds the warmth of his kindness close in her memory. Steeling herself with luminous resolve, Luana admits that the thought of no longer being able to talk with Sieg is something she does not like at all. Standing outside his door as Clovis's advice echoes, Luana knocks and announces it is her, confessing she came just as Lord Clovis suggested but fretting whether Sieg will really talk to her. Wrenching the door open with a crooked, guarded smile, Sieghart curtly asks what she wants. Peering up at him with hopeful, earnest eyes, Luana softly says she wanted to talk a bit and asks if she may come in. Taking his sullen silence as permission to enter, Luana breezes in and cheerfully offers to make him some tea while a flustered Sieghart insists she is bad at it and will do it himself. Sipping the tea he brewed, Luana marvels that she never realized the taste could change so much depending on how it is made, as Sieghart loftily declares that anyone wanting to be called a lady should at least manage this much. Blinking as a sudden suspicion dawns, Luana wonders aloud whether it could be. Setting down her cup, Luana brightly asks if he means she wants to be called a lady, and Sieghart scoffs a withering as if, demanding whether she is stupid. Lowering his eyes over the rim of his cup, Sieghart quietly admits that his mother taught him, as Luana's gaze softens with sudden understanding. Turning toward the flower-framed window, Luana recalls that Sieg's mother has already passed, while Sieghart reveals that his mother was a very powerful mage who, though she lacked rare magic like Luana's, defeated countless monsters on the battlefield. Lowering his gaze with quiet sorrow, Sieghart confides that his mother was someone he truly respected, and Luana softly murmurs that she sees. Casting his shadowed eyes downward, Sieghart bitterly reveals the wound he has carried all along, that his mother died because of him. Blinking in startled confusion, Luana can only manage a small, bewildered what. Turning away as the memory rises, Sieghart explains that during the cleanup one monster he tried to carry was still alive, and in that instant he had let his guard down. Staring into the haunting vision of his mother's death, Sieghart reveals in a hollow voice that she stepped in to protect him and was killed for it. Watching his face crumple, Luana listens as Sieghart recounts how his mother gathered the last of her strength to slay the beast before collapsing right there, and she can only breathe a stunned. Lowering her eyes to her folded hands, Luana quietly admits she had not known, murmuring that she sees. Studying his troubled profile, Luana turns over the heavy revelation that Sieg's mother died in such a cruel way. Settling into the chair across from him, Luana gently confesses that this is exactly why she yelled at those soldiers today, even though she never had the right to scold them in the first place, and Sieghart reveals he grew so angry because he had once made the very same mistake himself. Bowing his head with weary self-reproach, Sieghart admits that seen that way perhaps he is the one at fault, since this time no one else was dragged in and yet he had sacrificed his own mother. Snapping her head up in fierce protest, Luana insists he must listen, declaring it absolutely untrue that things only worked out this time because she happened to be there. Closing his eyes with a tired, aching gentleness, Sieghart quietly offers her a soft apology. Widening her luminous eyes, Luana stares at him in startled, wordless surprise. Meeting her gaze at last, Sieghart confesses that the anger he aimed at the soldiers he ended up taking out on her too, even though thanks to Luana no one was hurt at all. Beaming at him with warm, forgiving grace, Luana reassures him that she is not bothered by it in the slightest and it is not something he needs to apologize for. Fixing her with an earnest look, Sieghart finally asks why she was avoiding him, and Luana blinks as he begins to explain that it was because she reminded him of his mother. Reliving the battlefield in a rush, Sieghart tells the astonished Luana that the very moment she thrust her arm between the soldier and the monster overlapped with the memory of his own mother stepping forward to protect him and sacrificing herself. Lowering his eyes with quiet honesty, Sieghart admits he remembered what happened back then and could not sort out his emotions, so he thought it better to keep some distance until he calmed down, and Luana softly says she sees. Breaking into a radiant, grateful smile, Luana tells him no. She is glad she got to hear about his mother, and thanks Sieg warmly for telling her, while he demurs that it is nothing she needs to thank him for. Flushing with heartfelt warmth, Luana adds that besides, talking about something like this feels like something you can only do once you have truly opened your heart. Flushing and averting his eyes, Sieghart haltingly admits that, well, he guesses he has never told anyone about his mother other than his father. Studying his bashful profile over the rim of her cup, Luana teasingly muses that she was just thinking he is being kind of cute, and a flustered Sieghart snaps at her not to mess with him. Beaming with unrepentant warmth, Luana insists she really means it, and Sieghart can only mutter a defeated "is that so" into his tea. Sipping the fragrant brew with genuine delight, Luana marvels that the tea Sieg made really is delicious. Cradling the warmth in her hands, Luana wistfully confesses that she wishes she could have met his mother too. The scene shifts as a solemn Clovis stands tall and declares that there is someone, his wife, whom he wants Luana to help. Peeking around the curtain with wide, startled eyes, Luana falters that Lord Clovis's wife would mean Sieg's mother, right? And Clovis simply confirms yes. Tilting her head in open bewilderment beside Sieghart, Luana wonders aloud whether the woman was not dead, while a puzzled Clovis asks whether his wife is not in fact alive. A stunned exclamation of what bursts across the grand manor as the whole misunderstanding cracks wide open. Whirling on Sieghart in teary indignation, Luana protests that yesterday he said his mother was hurt protecting him, while Sieghart evenly retorts that he never once said she died and warns her not to go, deciding his mother is dead all on her own. Rounding on her with a mortified snarl, Sieghart declares he takes back what he said about her being cute last night, fuming that she really is an infuriating big dog. Pinching the bridge of his nose, Clovis wearily interjects that he did not bring up his wife just to watch the two of them bicker, and a sheepish Sieghart mutters a small sorry. Sighing with fond exasperation, Clovis chides Sieg not to tease her too much, since she only misunderstood on her own. Resting his chin on his hand with a wry look, Clovis coolly advises that if Sieg does not want to be hated, he should keep things reasonable. Blinking in bug-eyed alarm amid a flurry of question marks, Luana echoes whether Lord Clovis means hated by him, and a flushed Sieghart grudgingly concedes yeah, got it. Steering them firmly back on topic, Clovis introduces the matter of his wife, Lady Ale, the Marchioness of the Frontier, whose serene portrait rises in soft focus. Gazing at the sleeping noblewoman, Luana recalls uncertainly that she had heard Lady Ale was injured protecting Sieg, but the picture no longer fits. Folding his hands with quiet grief, Clovis explains that about 2 years ago, roughly a year before Luana arrived, Ale was attacked by a monster and fortunately survived, yet never regained consciousness for 2 full years. Reeling with dawning horror, Luana breathlessly asks where Lady Ale is now, and Clovis answers that she rests at a villa some distance from here. Lying wreathed in lilies of the valley, the unconscious Marchioness remains exactly where she was left, for she has stayed asleep there ever since. As you may know, Clovis begins, most monsters lack it, but the powerful ones sometimes carry a poison called magic toxin that harms only humans. Entering through any wound left by claw or fang, the toxin infects the body and forces the cells to necrotize with terrifying speed, eventually leading to death. Small amounts, Clovis explains, can occasionally be cured with antitoxins, but a large dose leaves only immediate amputation, and Ale was slashed from shoulder across chest, so amputation was never possible. Wide-eyed and trembling, Luana struggles to grasp how anyone survived poison spread across such a vast area for 2 full years. Fixing her with a level gaze, Clovis reveals that magic toxin's progression can be slowed through careful mana control. Most likely, he muses, Ale is quietly using her own magic to suppress the toxin's relentless advance even now. Marveling in a hushed voice, Luana breathes that holding back the poison while unconscious for so long is simply incredible. However, Clovis admits gravely, over these 2 years the toxin has steadily gained ground, and it is now only a matter of time before Ale dies. Bowing her head, a tearful Luana confesses she feels honored to be trusted with something so important, while Clovis apologizes for raising so grim a topic first thing in the morning. Steepling his fingers, Clovis reveals he has long been searching for someone, and a puzzled Luana wonders aloud why he would tell her something this weighty now. Meeting her eyes across the sunlit room, he explains he has sought a person able to wield the rare magic known as light. Blinking in surprise, Luana echoes the words light magic as Clovis recounts how it can immobilize monsters and even make them vanish entirely, while also holding healing power over humans. Beaming softly, Luana admits she never knew that, and Clovis notes healing magic is extraordinarily rare, that he secretly had every healer he could find cast spells on Ale, but none had any effect. It is only intuition, Clovis concedes, yet he firmly believes healing through light magic offers the highest chance of success, though such a thing has never once been attempted. Startled and leaning in, Sieg demands to know why his father believes something so unproven. Because Ale's body is being devoured by magic toxin, Clovis reasons, and if light magic works only on monsters, then a poison born of a monster's power should have a high chance of being purified by that very light. Pressing a hand to her chest, Luana quietly concedes that the theory does sound reasonable after all. Leaning forward earnestly, Clovis reminds her that over this past year she has worked hard and sharpened her light magic, and warns she may not manage healing right away. Yet with quiet conviction, Clovis tells her he believes she will be able to do it. Luana. Rising and bowing his head low before the startled girl, Clovis begs her to save his wife, pleading Luana's name as she stares back in stunned disbelief. Bowing low, Clovis vows he will lower his head as many times as it takes for Ael's sake and stands prepared to give any reward, while a flustered Luana begs him to please stop and raise his head. Pressing on, Clovis offers to buy her a mansion grander than the estate itself and transfer maids and butlers to serve her, whatever reward she might desire. Turning his gaze aside, Clovis is caught off guard when Luana quietly tells him she is already receiving her reward, so there is no need. Beaming radiantly, Luana explains that being together like this with Clovis, Sieg, the soldiers, and the maids, this time in this place, is the greatest reward she could ever want. The scene drifts inward as Luana recalls that for the 5 years she spent at the Altamira estate, she could not speak to anyone, and any words spoken to her came only as one-sided orders or abuse, never a proper conversation. Yet in the single year since coming to this estate, she remembered how sharing a meal with someone could feel so happy and comforting. It brought back tender memories of when she was truly happy, living together long ago with her mother. Softening, Clovis murmurs that if he still may ask her to accept a reward. Closing her eyes with a brilliant smile, Luana answers that being allowed to remain in the Margrave's household and keep eating together with everyone would make her happiest, more than any wealth or mansion. Brightening suddenly, Luana adds that after Lady Ael is healed, she would be overjoyed if she could join their meals too, while Clovis can only breathe her name. Watching her with quiet warmth, Clovis muses that she truly is someone possessed of so little greed. Laughing sheepishly, Luana protests that she does have desires, especially her appetite, since the food is so good every day that she always ends up eating far too much. Softening into rare amusement, Clovis promises that from now on he will make certain she is always full, and a delighted Luana thanks him profusely. Catching Sieg stealing a sidelong glance, Luana asks what is wrong, and Sieg mutters that it is nothing, insisting nothing at all before flatly telling her to come eat. Falling quiet for a long moment, Sieg studies her from the side, then gently speaks her name aloud. Flushing faintly, Sieg salutes and, half-hidden, asks Luana to please take care of his mother. Closing her eyes in a wide, heartfelt smile, Luana promises she will do everything she can. The scene shifts several weeks after Clovis asked her to heal Lady Ael, where Sieg announces that his mother, Lady Ael, Marchioness of the Frontier, is here at last outside a distant villa. Nodding quickly, Luana answers that she understands as Sieg beckons her forward, telling her this way and to come along. Wide-eyed and breathless before the sleeping figure, Luana realizes with quiet awe that this, at last, is her, while Sieg lingers tensely at the door. Gazing at the sleeping Marchioness, Ethan Dinkel, Luana marvels that she is so beautiful it is hard to believe she has slept 2 whole years, looking as though she could wake at any moment. Studying her in quiet wonder, Luana reflects that Ael has held herself together while ceaselessly fighting the magic toxin, recalling a book claiming those skilled in mana control age more slowly. Yet a somber shadow falls as Luana notes that from Ael's neck up to her cheeks the skin has turned purple, the magic toxin slowly working its necrosis. According to Clovis's own estimate, Luana remembers gravely, once the toxin reaches Ael's brain or heart, there will be nothing more to be done. Stepping to the bedside, Sieg gently tells his mother it has been a long time and that it is him, Sieg, murmuring the word mother with quiet ache. Softening, Sieg tells her that it has grown warm lately and new flowers have begun blooming in the garden, promising to pick some and bring them next time. Turning to Luana, Sieg gathers himself and asks whether he may begin, and she answers softly that yes, please he should. Lowering her eyes in concentration, Luana notes that she has studied healing magic hard these past few days and practiced without rest. Steeling herself, Luana admits this is almost a live trial, and her power is still far from perfect. Raising trembling hands wreathed in radiance, Luana casts light cure and vows with fierce resolve that she will absolutely heal her. Straining against the effort, Luana realizes even in practice that healing magic drains mana and stamina both at once with alarming speed. Gritting through the strain, Luana insists she cannot stop halfway and orders herself to focus harder still. Pouring out everything with all her power, Luana suddenly sways as her strength gives out, and a startled Sieg lunges to catch her. Steadied in his arms, a flushed Luana smiles that she is fine and thanks him, while a shaken Sieg frantically asks whether she is truly okay. Their faces suddenly inches apart. Luana blinks up at him and breathes his name, Sieg, as an exclamation of shock bursts across the panel. Flustered and scrambling back, Luana stammers that his face is so close, dissolving into embarrassed confusion. Whirling away with a scarlet blush, Luana insists she is fine and thanks him, privately admitting that only startled her, while Sieg reddens fiercely in turn. Composing themselves, Luana promises she is fine, Sieg gruffly warns her not to overdo it, and she resolves that she will try again. Lifting her glowing hands once more with quiet determination, Luana casts Light Cure a second time. The scene draws back over the villa at last as Sieg gently calls that they are heading back for today, Luana. Breathing hard from the effort, Luana bows her head and tells Sieg she is sorry, and when he asks for what, she admits that healing Lady Ale seems beyond what she can manage right now. Softening into a gentle smile, Sieg reassures her that it is fine, since he never once thought it would be possible right away. Still catching her breath, Luana insists it was her first time using healing magic on a person, so she never expected it to work in a single attempt, yet today gave her a feel for it, and she resolves to practice harder. Turning back with dry concern, Sieg asks whether she can even stand on her own. Confessing sheepishly that she might not manage to stand right away, Luana tells him to go on ahead while she rests, only for Sieg to scoop her up with a muttered complaint about what a hassle it is, drawing a startled shriek. Flustered in his arms, Luana protests that it is not as if she is hungry right now, while Sieg dryly counters that she wants to eat soon too and announces they are heading back to the main residence for dinner. Setting off with her held fast, Sieg tells her all right, let's go, starving Saintess, and an indignant Luana demands to know who exactly he is calling a starving Saintess. Passing a startled maid who exclaims and asks whether Lord Sieghart and Lady Luana are returning, Sieg answers simply yes, and the maid titters a knowing I see. Watching the pair from the side, the maid gushes that they are both so adorable and muses that youth truly is wonderful, while a stiff Sieg can only manage a flat ah. Burying her burning face against him, Luana laments that she cannot lift her head and that this is so embarrassing, while Sieg calmly tells her he will not drop her, so she should relax. Pressed close, Luana notices with a start that he is warm, her gaze dropping to the hand cradling her. An unfamiliar flutter seizes her chest as she wonders in bewilderment what this is, asking herself whether it is only because she is tired. Blushing furiously, Luana decides it must simply be because she is exhausted, even as a quieter thought surfaces that she does not want to pull away. The scene shifts to the main residence, where, over dinner and while traveling back and forth between the estate and the villa casting healing magic on Ale, Clovis announces he has good news. Leaning forward eagerly, Sieg asks his father whether it is true, as Clovis reports that according to the villa's maid the discolored areas of Ale's skin have been steadily shrinking. Nodding, Clovis confirms it, adding that the discoloration on her fingernails appears to be returning to normal. Brightening with dawning wonder, Luana reflects that until now there had been no visible change to tell whether the healing was working, but now she knows for certain. Clenching her fist with fierce new resolve, Luana silently vows that if it is her, she truly can heal Lady Ale, while Clovis gently reminds her that the road ahead is still long. Beaming with unshakable determination, Luana declares that yes, she will absolutely heal Lady Ale. Meeting her resolve with quiet warmth, Sieg's father regards her and murmurs that he is counting on her. Setting down her thought, Luana ventures that she has a proposal regarding Lady Ale's treatment, and Clovis invites her to let him hear it. Explaining her limits, Luana admits her healing magic is still immature, so she cannot sustain it for long and must rest a while after activating it for only a few minutes. Reasoning it through, Luana notes that if she increases the time she spends by Ale's side, she believes she can raise the total healing time, drawing a thoughtful from Clovis. Leaning back, Sieg listens as Luana adds that she gave the matter some careful thought. Meeting his gaze brightly, Luana suggests it would be better if she simply stayed at the villa, so the hours otherwise lost to traveling could be spent healing instead. Absorbing the idea in profile, Clovis quietly answers that he sees. Warm but cautious, Clovis says he understands her proposal, yet asks whether she is sure and whether she is not pushing herself too hard, noting that while she focuses on healing she would no longer need to go to the battlefield. Closing her eyes in a bright smile, Luana insists she truly is not overexerting herself and wants to do everything she possibly can, and Clovis gently allows that this is fine too. Regarding her with quiet approval, Clovis murmurs once more that he sees. Settling the matter, Clovis tells her there are many vacant rooms at the villa and promises they will arrange one for her, Luana. Bowing her gratitude, Luana thanks Clovis warmly, and he replies that he is the one who should be thanking her, grateful that she is giving this her all. Then, catching everyone off guard, Luana declares that in that case she will live at the villa too, prompting a startled Sieg to blink at her name. Falling into a flustered silence, Sieg insists that he is fine on his own, and a puzzled Luana asks why, only for him to begin haltingly that it is because of her. Propping his chin in one hand, Sieg reminds her that she likes eating meals together with someone, since she said exactly that before. Realizing his meaning, Luana echoes softly that he wants to eat meals together with her, marveling with shining eyes that he actually remembered what she said back then. Averting his gaze, Sieg grumbles that it would be a problem if she ate alone, grew lonely, and lost her motivation, while Luana laughingly protests that such a thing would never happen. Overcome, a teary and beaming Luana admits that this makes her happy and murmurs his name, Sieg. Closing her eyes in a radiant, heartfelt smile, Luana simply tells him thank you. Hiding his mouth behind his hand, a faintly blushing Sieg manages only a low, embarrassed The scene shifts as the seasons turn and both Sieg and Luana turn 17. Luana stepping brightly into the sunlit room to greet the sleeping Marchioness with a warm good morning, Lady Ale. Serenely watching over the sleeping Lady Ale, Luana narrates that she spends her days on the battlefield and then returns to the villa to cast her healing magic. Beaming down at the unconscious Marchioness, Luana reports that her healing has improved considerably and that 6 months of effort have nearly erased the toxin's discoloration while Sieg gathers fresh garden flowers outside beneath wonderful weather. Flashing a bright, confident grin, Luana cheerfully announces that she will begin today's treatment now. Pressing her glowing hands together, Luana invokes light heal as radiant sparks erupt across the quiet room. Smiling softly in profile, Luana admits that over these 6 months there were many times she felt her heart would break. Recalling the exhaustion, she confesses her magic never improved easily, that each casting demanded a long rest afterward, and that even Ale's slight progress nearly made her surrender countless times. Gazing warmly, Luana reveals that what carried her through all of it were Sieg and Lord Clovis, the flushing pair who supported her. Reflecting over a steaming bowl and fresh bread, she notes that although she alone chose to live at the villa, the two came along with her and shared every meal. Standing loyally beside her seated form, Clovis stays close as Luana recalls that both men remained right at her side while she cast her healing magic. Sighing with weary relief, Luana murmurs a soft phew, grateful that their presence is exactly why she was able to keep going until today. Turning her back to the reader, Luana gazes at the sleeping lady and admits she can never thank the two who gave her a place to belong. Peering through the sunlit window, Luana wonders wryly if she used too much magic on the battlefield this morning and decides she should rest a little. Lifting her radiant face toward the light, Luana breathes that the weather is so nice today it feels absolutely wonderful. Closing her eyes with a gentle smile beside the slumbering Ale, Luana confides that she wants the Marchioness to meet Sieg and Clovis as soon as possible, and to talk with her a great deal too. Bathed in streaming sunlight, Luana muses that there is so much to share about Lady Ale herself and stories from Sieg's childhood. Blushing tenderly, Luana repeats that there are so many things, so very many, her voice trailing into contented warmth. Drifting as her eyelids grow heavy, Luana yawns that oh no, she is getting sleepy, just a little bit. Slumping against the bedside in peaceful sleep, the exhausted Saintess dozes beneath the watchful, unmistakably open eyes of Lady Ale. Ushered urgently away by a flustered maid calling him this way, Sieghart answers that he already knows. The scene shifts 3 years into the past, where a wide-eyed young Sieg races breathlessly toward frantic cries that the injured are over here and first aid is needed now. Recalling that he was far more of a brat back then, Sieg confesses that after the battle ended he had completely let his guard down. Screaming his name in terror, Lady Ale lunges to shield her careless son from the monster's sudden strike. Consoling the grieving family, Ale insists it is not their fault, and the men reply that they alone are to blame for failing to finish the monster off. Gazing softly at his stricken mother, Clovis assures the boy that she will be fine, because if it is Ale. Remembering his father never once blamed him, Sieg admits that from that day on he kept condemning his own carelessness and continued to regret it endlessly. Carrying that regret for 3 long years, Sieg torments himself that had he not let his guard down and nearly died, his mother would never have slept for 3 whole years. Wondering bitterly what he should even say to her, Sieg dreads that his mother might resent him for the moment she finally wakes. The scene shifts to the present, where a tearful Luana cries out for Sieg as the newly awakened Ale smiles gently and softly speaks his name, Luana. Turning his back to hide his face, Sieg hears his mother marvel that it has been 3 years after all, and that Sieg-chan has grown so big he now towers over her. Laughing behind her hand, Ale admits with a serene smile that it seems she overslept a little, agreeing that it is quite true. Realizing she has not changed at all since that fateful day, Sieg listens as his mother tenderly welcomes him back. Overcome and weeping openly, Sieg chokes out the word mother, marveling that she is still the same gentle woman he remembered. Beaming warmly at her grown son, Elle announces that she is home and calls his name, while a delighted Luana watches from the doorway. The scene shifts as Luana slips quietly away to give mother and son their reunion, leaving Sieg and Ale alone beneath the streaming light. Turning with astonished joy, Clovis and Sieg cry out for her as the radiant Ale smiles, and Clovis chokes out her name, Ale. Embracing her husband tightly, Ale apologizes for sleeping so very long, and Clovis murmurs that it is fine, that all that matters is she is safe. Peeking around the corner, a beaming Luana spies the tender embrace as the little mascot creature short-circuits in flustered delight. Averting his eyes with a heavy sigh, Sieg warns Luana they are leaving the room, dryly explaining that his father and mother are an over-the-top lovey-dovey couple. Sparkling with wide, starry eyes, an overwhelmed Luana reels that the word lovey-dovey just came straight from the prince's own mouth. Steering her gently down the corridor by the arm, Sieg instructs Luana that for a while it is just the two of them, so she must not go near the room, and she happily agrees. Blushing warmly as her parents embrace behind them, Ale gazes at the flustered girl and softly tells her she is glad, calling her name, Luana. Turning to her with quiet earnestness, Sieg says thanks to Luana, his mother was finally able to wake up, and she can only manage a startled what. Meeting her wide eyes steadily, Sieg vows he will never forget this debt for as long as he lives. Flustered and blushing furiously, Luana stammers that it is not really anything as Sieg warmly thanks her. Breaking into a radiant, bashful grin, Sieg simply says her name once more, Luana. Flustering under his rare smile with her heart pounding, Luana manages a small yeah as Sieg softly invites her to come eat. The scene shifts to the grand dining table, where a delighted Luana notes that until now only Clovis, Sieg, and she shared meals, but starting today Ale is here too. Peppering her son with motherly questions, Elle asks whether the picky Sieg-chan finished all his food while she slept and managed to eat his bell peppers, earning a flustered admission. Squirming under the attention, Sieg protests that he is already 17 now, while Ale beams that her Sieg-chan has grown up so much. Turning her fond attention to the girl, Elle asks whether Luana-chan has any disliked foods, and the mascot swoons with admiration when she insists she has none. Basking in the warmth, Luana marvels at the pleasantly lively dining table and the joy of a family meal together after so very long. Smiling shyly as Ale asks how she finds it, Luana confesses she feels a little uneasy, wondering if it is truly okay for her to be part of this, yet it feels like being given a share of a family's happiness. Grinning as the recollection surfaces, Sieg tells his mother to remember the reward, leaving Luana startled with an confused eh. Beaming radiantly, Luana declares it is the happiest reward there could be, and a quietly moved Ale murmurs I see. Leaning in with mischievous, sparkling delight, Ale presses the pair on whether the two of them are lovers. Panicking in unison, both Luana and Sieg splutter that it is not that, prompting Ale to tease that maybe it is a bit early, or perhaps they are engaged instead. Flailing to explain herself, Luana blurts that she and Sieg are always fighting, while a faintly stunned Sieg begins a hesitant eye. Clasping her hands with heart-eyed glee, Ale coos oh my, and slyly asks whether Luana could possibly like her Sieg-chan, leaving the girl with a strangled Beaming with luminous innocence, Luana brightly concludes that friends is what she thinks the two of them are. Sharing a fond, knowing family moment as Clovis playfully feeds a sweet to the exasperated Sieg, the reunited household settles into its warm, new ordinary. Two flustered little mascot faces exchange a startled "is that so?" and an emphatic yes, the small comedy punctuating the moment. The scene shifts outdoors as a wistful Ale gazes toward the distant frontier and softly murmurs the word mother to herself. Fretting at her side, Sieg reminds his mother she is not participating in today's battle and begs her not to overdo it yet, and Ale easily agrees that she understands. Coaxing him gently, Ale insists it is fine and that today she will simply behave and observe, while Sieg protests that staying cooped up in the mansion forever will only make her sluggish, and she concedes that is true. Closing her eyes to breathe it all in, Ale reminisces about the smell of earth, the smell of burned grass, and that gloomy monster stench. Sharing a wry family laugh, Ale admits it is a unique way of reminiscing while Sieg agrees that yes, it has certainly been a while. Shattering the calm, urgent battle cries ring out that monsters are coming and all units must prepare for battle, snapping mother and son to attention. Assessing the swarming horde with practiced calm, Ale estimates around 50 of them and quietly promises her Sieg-chan she will step in if it gets dangerous. Glancing back over his shoulder with a steady, determined gaze, Sieg silently braces himself for the coming fight. Flashing his mother a confident grin, Sieg tells her it is fine because he has grown stronger too, and reveals that on this battlefield there is a Saintess. Charging into the fray, Sieg desperately calls out for Luana, pleading for her aid as the beasts close in around the soldiers. Thrusting her glowing hand forward with a fierce cry, Luana answers understood and unleashes her radiant light, the holy power blazing outward. Marveling at the spectacle, Sieg explains it really can halt the monster's movements and even make them vanish, while a dazzled Ale admits it is her first time seeing light magic, and he wryly warns her not to overdo the cleanup either. Turning to her son with a warm, teasing smile, Ale agrees that Sieg-chan has truly become strong, and there is something more she wants to add, leaving a faintly blushing Sieg to murmur a quiet thank you. Beaming amid the grateful, clustering soldiers, Ale observes that Luana-chan is quite popular and that she can plainly see how much everyone trusts her. Watching the girl from a distance, a pensive Sieg concedes a low I guess so. Prodding gently, Ale admits she was surprised to hear the two of them are not lovers, and a defensive Sieg mutters that he does not think of her that way or anything. Leaning in with playful, knowing mischief, Ale wonders aloud whether Sieg would truly be fine if one of the soldiers became Luana-chan's lover. Freezing at the question with a startled Sieg stares as a radiant Luana approaches, and he begins a flustered that's. Dissolving into a tiny, amused foo-foo at her flushed and speechless son, Ale watches Sieg's carefully guarded composure quietly crack at last. Cooing behind her hand with a delighted how cute, Ale teases that her Sieg-chan is still such a child, and a wary Sieg can only manage a puzzled mother. Declaring cheerfully that in that case she will take the lead herself, Ale leaves her son with a bewildered ha hanging in the air. Breaking into a nervous sweat with a distinctly bad feeling, Sieg warily demands to know what exactly she means by that. Striking a scheming, starry-eyed pose as Luana beams obliviously behind her, Elle announces that first she will make Luana-chan fall for her. Recoiling with bulging eyes amid a storm of question marks, a thunderstruck Sieg erupts into a strangled ha. The scene shifts to a bright new morning, where a radiant Ale bounds up to greet Luana-chan good morning as the girl narrates that lately something has changed. Beaming as she clasps the maid-uniformed Ale's hands, Luana cheerfully returns the greeting with a good morning, Asama. Fidgeting bashfully, Luana confides that Ale-sama has been sticking to her lately, at least that is how it seems, while Ale chides her not to use such a stiff way of addressing her. Pressing closer with sparkling insistence, Ale suggests Luana might call her Ale-chan, or casually call her mom, leaving the flustered girl to protest that is a bit much. Clutching her hands hopefully, Luana hesitantly ventures a compromise of then, listen. Sweeping the girl into a warm embrace, a heart-eyed Ale chirps that it is nice to meet her, Luana-chan, so energetic it is hard to believe she slept 3 whole years. Squirming in the affectionate grip, Luana admits that Ale-san is genuinely kind and a truly good person, yet she cannot fathom why she keeps trying to do everything together with her or why she comes on so strong. The scene drifts onward as a giggling Ale styles the girl's hair into ponytails and twin tails, Luana marveling that whenever she asks, Ale-san gives her a very unique hairstyle. Recounting the relentless affection on the battlefield and inside the mansion, Luana sighs that Ale-san keeps trying to stick close no matter what, though the bath proved far too embarrassing and she finally turned her down. Whirling around mid-motion with a startled yelp, Sieg blurts her name, Luana, as she calls back a bright Sieg across the corridor. Peering at the kettle in her hands, Sieg asks whether she was fetching hot water, and when Luana confirms yeah, he offers a thoughtful I see as puzzlement flickers between them. Steeling herself with a nervous flush, Luana ventures that there is something she has been wanting to ask him, and a faintly rattled Sieg stammers why what is it? Twisting shyly as she confesses Ale-san has been paying her so much attention lately, Luana broaches the subject, while a guarded Sieg crosses his arms with a low huh. Fidgeting with embarrassed honesty, Luana insists she does not dislike it at all and is truly happy that Ale-san is being so friendly, yet the sudden closeness struck her as strange. Dragging a hand through his hair with a rueful, knowing look, Sieg admits he does not really understand it either, but there is one thing he can say for certain, that his mother simply likes her. Musing that Ale would never go so far out of her way for someone she disliked, Sieg concedes the point while Luana wonders aloud whether it can really be true. Turning the puzzle over in her mind, Luana asks if it is because she healed Ale-san with light magic, still baffled by why the woman adores her this much. Leaning close, Sieg tells her firmly he will say this first. It is not because she can wield light magic, nor because she healed his mother with recovery magic. Grinning warmly, he adds that after 2 years at her side he can tell that much, prompting a wide-eyed Luana to ask if he just read her mind. Softening, he suggests that if it truly bothers her that much, she should simply ask his mother directly, then briskly tells her to head back to her room already. The scene shifts as a bundled-up Luana sneezes violently, and Sieg dryly warns her she will catch a cold while a distant voice calls out for her. Bursting in radiantly with a pillow clutched to her chest, Ale declares herself fully prepared and cheerfully proposes that she and Luana sleep together. Waving her hands, Ale hastily promises she would of course never force it, leaving a sheepish Luana to admit the sudden offer rather surprised her. Undeterred, Ale insists that if Luana would rather not share the bed she will happily take the floor, sending a scandalized Luana to protest that absolutely will not do. Sieg's parting words echo in Luana's mind, urging her to just ask his mother directly, and she falls thoughtfully silent. Beaming with delight, Ale thanks her precious Luana-chan as the girl at last relents and agrees that they may sleep together. The scene settles into the star-strewn bedroom, where Ale confesses her heart is pounding at her first time sharing a bed like this, and Luana softly agrees. Privately flustered, Luana frets she might strike Ale-san in her sleep, dimly sensing that Ale-san's pounding heart and her own are two very different kinds of pounding. Rolling toward her on the pillow, Ale gently says her name, her expression turning quietly serious in the dark. Radiant and sparkling, Ale leans in with shining eyes and asks Luana whether there is someone she happens to be interested in. Answering with cheerful innocence, Luana muses that right now it would have to be Ale-san, leaving a stunned Ale to ask if she means someone she is interested in. Delighted yet stricken, Ale murmurs that she is happy but also terribly sorry, while an oblivious Luana admits she is genuinely curious why the woman keeps getting this close to her. Confessing there is already someone for her, Ale wonders aloud whether Luana-chan could ever forgive her, sending a baffled Luana sputtering over why Clovis-sama's name is suddenly coming up. Amid a swirl of question marks, Ale gently asks whether Luana said that only because she is genuinely interested in her right now, sensing the girl misunderstood entirely. Smiling knowingly beneath the stars, Ale offers to change the question, teasing that she had quite forgotten how utterly pure her dear Luana-chan truly is. Rephrasing with a knowing smile, Ale gently asks her wide-eyed Luana-chan whether there is anyone she likes. Blinking in confusion, Luana repeats the words back, murmuring uncertainly that Ale means someone she likes. Brightening as it clicks, Luana blurts out Sieg's name, sending a delighted Ale bolting upright with a scandalized cry of Sieg-chan. Settling back against the pillow, Ale softly prompts her further, noting that Sieg is not the only one. Beaming radiantly, Luana declares that she likes everyone, from Clovis-sama and Ale-san to the soldiers stationed there and the maids. Gazing at her with quiet fondness, Ale murmurs that such an answer truly does suit her dear Luana-chan. Warm and unhurried, Ale praises the girl as hardworking, kind to all, and utterly adorable, drawing a bashful thank you and the tender verdict that Luana really is a good child. Rolling to face her, Ale confesses that she loves Luana-chan too, letting the words hang softly in the starlit dark. Her expression turning gentle and serious, Ale tells the wide-eyed girl that she does not need to be so afraid anymore. Luana echoes the word afraid in bewilderment as Ale presses on, insisting she must never think that if she stops being useful she will be thrown away. Apologizing quietly, Ale admits that Clovis told her everything, then reassures the girl that it is all right now. The scene drifts to a memory of Sieg, radiant and earnest, declaring that he, Clovis, and his mother all love her, so she need never fear being cast aside. Trembling, Luana stammers a small protest, the old dread rising unbidden in her chest. Her voice thin, Luana insists she is only a dispatched mage, just one among many, and that being discarded for failing to contribute is only natural. Drawing the girl into her arms, Ale murmurs that given her circumstances it is understandable she would think that way, as a stunned Luana breathes her name. Holding her close, Ale tenderly acknowledges the fear but insists that to them, Luana-chan is someone truly special. Cradling her cheek, Ale admits that yes, Luana once saved her, but swears she loves everything about the girl and would never throw her away. Her voice soft with feeling, Ale marvels at how hard Luana has worked and how much she has endured all this time. Enfolding her fully, Ale whispers a single word, "Mom," and Luana suddenly remembers the long-forgotten warmth of being held by her own mother. Laughing gently, Ale muses that she has always wished Luana-chan could be her daughter too, declaring the feeling mutual, while a flustered Luana can only stammer an apology. Cradling the girl close, Ale murmurs that Luana may spoil herself and think of them as her real family, and Luana softly answers yes. Smiling faintly in the dark, Ale adds with a gentle laugh that since they are family now, Luana no longer needs to use honorifics with her. The scene lingers on that night, Luana tearfully agreeing as she feels that familiar warmth for the first time in ages and sleeps more deeply than she has in a long while. Morning arrives in the grand dining hall, where a maid greets the rare sight of Clovis and Ale coming down together for breakfast. Lounging with a wineglass, Clovis teasingly notes it is also rare for Luana to be late, prompting her to protest the greedy implication while he coolly asks if she is not, in fact, exactly that. Deflating into a chibi pout, Luana admits she simply loves food a great deal, earning a dry IC from the amused Margrave. Stepping in gracefully, Elle chides her dear husband not to tease Luana-chan too much, and Clovis offers an easy apology. The scene shifts to Sieg, who eyes his flustered companions and asks whether something happened with his mother, flatly declaring her nothing in particular to be an obvious lie. Elsewhere, a giddy Ale gushes to a mortified listener that she slept beside Luana-chan last night and that the girl was unbearably cute. Arching a brow, Sieg drawls that so she slept together with mother, did she, his tone thick with knowing amusement. Flushing under his stare, Luana turns defensive and demands to know whether that is somehow a bad thing. Smirking, Sieg concedes it is not really, then needles her that she is still quite the child herself, drawing a sullen scowl. The scene shifts as an announcement lands, leaving a wide-eyed Luana to echo the words royal capital in startled confusion. Seated beside Ale, Clovis explains that the social season will soon be held in the capital, and that he intends to send Luana and Sieg. Blinking in surprise, Luana repeats the phrase social season while Ale fondly remarks that Luana has been with them for 3 full years now. Returning mid-conversation with a puzzled hum, Sieg listens as Clovis reasons that since the pair are both turning 18, it is necessary for them to broaden their connections. Recalling her cramped world, Luana reflects that after joining the Dinkel household she ventured into town only rarely, shuttling mostly between battlefield and estate, so desperate was she to secure her place there. Concluding the matter, Clovis declares they will need to prepare a dress for the social season, and though Ale warns it might feel a little strange, Luana can only echo the word dress in bewilderment. Slouching into resigned chibi form, Luana mutters she would be fine attending just as she is, only for Ale to point out cheerfully that one simply cannot go to a social gathering in those clothes. The scene shifts to a dazzling room lined with gowns, where a delighted Ale reveals she had dresses brought over from a tailor in town, leaving Luana teary-eyed and overwhelmed at the sheer, staggering quantity. Amid a flurry of chibi protest, a frazzled Luana insists they must select carefully while a gleeful Ale cheerfully urges buying every last one and keeping the fitting spree going. Modeling gown after gown in a heart-strewn parade, Luana glows through each while Ale and the maid swoon in a delighted chorus of "Oh my." Rapping at the door, Sieg asks whether they have decided, only for Ale to insist everything suits Luana and that they really should simply buy them all. Wreathed in blossoms, a radiant Luana clutches her favorite gown and admits that while all of them are wonderful, she thinks this one might be best, then shyly asks Sieg what he thinks. Caught off guard, Sieg gazes at her with a faint flush and murmurs that she looks very beautiful. The praise lands squarely, leaving a wide-eyed Luana frozen and faintly pink at his unguarded words. Flustered and deflecting, Luana hastily agrees the dress itself is lovely and wonders aloud whether she should go with this one after all. Averting his gaze with a small smile, Sieg concedes the dress is beautiful, but lets the word trail pointedly, as though the beauty were not the dresses alone. The scene shifts as the day of the social gathering arrives swiftly, a carriage rolling toward the capital while Luana privately notes that Sieg has been acting strangely. Seated across from her, Sieg asks if she is really that nervous, and Luana admits with a sheepish smile that she is, while he grants that of course he is too. Fretting in chibi form, Luana reasons it is easier than the battlefield, drawing Sieg's dry reminder that she need not defeat anyone there and that her comparison is decidedly strange. Brightening, Luana clasps her hands and earnestly asks Sieg to please escort her tonight, since it is her very first time in the capital and at a social gathering. Meeting her eyes with a warm, confident grin, Sieg tells her to leave it to him. Bolstering her nerve, Luana reminds herself she is wearing such a splendid dress and even had her hair done nicely, resolving to carry herself with confidence. Leaning forward with sudden purpose, Sieg mentions that when noble ladies attend social gatherings, they wear not only dresses but accessories as well. Admitting a gap in his knowledge, Sieg confesses he is not very well versed in jewelry, leaving a puzzled Luana to tilt her head. Something is quietly pressed into her hands, and Luana's eye widens as a small box settles against her trembling fingers. Opening it to a glittering pair of ornaments, Luana gasps softly as Sieg explains he tried to choose something that would not clash with her dress. Cradling the gift, an overwhelmed Luana marvels that it is beautiful and haltingly asks, given the flow of the conversation, whether this is truly meant for her. Turning slightly away with a soft, self-conscious look, Sieg listens as a teary-eyed, blushing Luana breathes out a heartfelt "Thank you, Sieg." Flushing as Sieg stammers a shy "yeah," Luana beams down at the little box and vows tearfully that she is truly happy and will treasure it always. Reaching to help, Sieg leans in as a fumbling Luana admits it is her first time and that only one side is on properly, so he offers to take a look and put it on for her. Cradling her cheek with startling gentleness, Sieg murmurs that he will fasten it himself, leaving a wide-eyed, sparkling Luana frozen beneath his touch. Against a soft open sky, Sieg quietly announces it is on, and Luana manages only a breathless "yeah" in reply. Drawing back with a warm, crooked smile, Sieg studies her a moment and murmurs that it suits her. Turning away to hide her face, Luana feels her heart pounding so loudly she fears it might be heard, just as Sieg softly says her name. The moment shatters as an exuberant top-hatted Clovis bursts in announcing that Sieghart and Luana have arrived, and a flustered Luana insists nothing at all is wrong. Grinning through the carriage window, Sieg tells her simply to come, and a misty-eyed, blushing Luana softens into a small, radiant smile. The scene opens onto the dazzling capital spread out below, Luana breathing an awed "yeah" as she and Sieg gaze over the glittering city and its grand estate. Shrinking into a sparkling chibi, Luana wilts at the overwhelming opulence and inwardly shrieks that absolutely everything around her is far too luxurious. Eyeing a delicate vase in dread, she reasons that if she so much as knocked one over she would likely be paying it off for the rest of her life. Noticing the crowd stares, a bewildered Luana whispers that they are drawing far too much attention, while Sieg admits he has been wondering the same thing for a while. Piecing it together, Sieg explains that when the Dinkel son, absent from the deadly frontier for years, appears beside some unfamiliar young lady, people are bound to stare, leaving Luana to echo the word unfamiliar. Fretting quietly, Luana reflects that no one here would know of the illegitimate Altamira daughter, and anxiously wonders which family she should name if anyone asks. Answering easily, Sieg tells her to simply say the Dinkel Frontier household, and when she worries it might cause trouble for the name, he assures her that father and mother already think of her as family. Sieg's careless follow-up lands like a thunderclap as he muses that using the Dinkel name now might make her look like his wife, sending Luana's eyes enormous and her heart slamming. Backpedaling in a fluster, Sieg blurts that they could instead be taken for siblings with him as the elder brother, drawing a strangled, mortified cry that such a thing is utterly impossible. The scene shifts to the grand hall, where an attendant beside the crowned king welcomes the assembly and declares it an honor to host such wonderful individuals tonight. Heads turn as the attendant summons the members of the Dinkel Frontier household to step forward, and a startled Luana realizes with alarm that the king himself is looking their way. Grinning, Sieg admits he knew about this all along, and when a scandalized Luana demands to know why he never told her, she can only sputter a bewildered string of as the summons hangs in the air. Sputtering in disbelief, Luana thinks only that this guy is impossible, while Sieg airily explains he simply finds it more fun this way. Turning his profile toward her, Sieg adds that he figured she didn't need to know about the troublesome parts. Blinking up at him with wide, luminous eyes, Luana can only manage a bewildered, huh, before he urges her onward, reminding her the Emperor is waiting. Stepping before the throne with Sieg at her side, he calmly gives the name Sieghart Dinkel and humbly offers their greetings to His Majesty. Lifting her chin, Luana declares herself Luana Chiel Dinkel, borrowing the name because she thinks of Clovis, Lady Ale, and Sieg as her family. Seated in cold splendor, the Emperor acknowledges that the Dinkel Frontier is widely known for holding back monster invasions and protecting the Empire. Gesturing to the pair, the Emperor names Sieghart and Luana the heroes who have fought on as a holy knight and a saintess. Reeling at the words, Luana flushes and stammers over being called a holy knight, while a chibi Sieg sulks in his usual unimpressed demeanor. Watching the couple retreat down the hall, Luana confesses she cannot process so many surprises as the Emperor announces a special commendation is to be bestowed tonight. Turning smoothly to the throne, Sieg accepts the honor on their behalf, leaving Luana to realize with dawning suspicion that he knew about this too. Faltering under the weight of it, Luana marvels that the light she once used only to survive has become something people are grateful for, when a sharp voice cuts in demanding everyone wait. Whirling around, Luana recognizes the intruders with a jolt and gasps out, "Father, stepmother," as the Emperor coolly demands to know who they are. Bowing with oily deference, the man names himself Hector Hugh Altamira, Count of Altamira, and begs forgiveness before declaring that a falsehood has just been spoken. Leaning forward with a slow, dangerous smile, the Emperor asks precisely what the Count means. Pointing a trembling finger at Luana, Hector humbly states that the girl standing there is not who she claims to be. Staring back in stunned silence, Luana listens as her father insists she is not of the Dinkel household at all but a member of the Altamira family. Arching a brow, the Emperor offers only a soft, "Oh," as a ripple of scandalized murmuring spreads through the hall. Fuming in silhouette, Hector rages that she is using the Dinkel name to steal a commendation rightfully owed to the Altamira family, twice calling her his daughter though he never once thought of her as such. Meeting his gaze without flinching, Luana calmly declares that he is mistaken and that she is not a member of the Altamira family. Recoiling as his composure cracks, Hector sputters that it can be confirmed by investigation, only for Luana to answer, with quiet finality, that there is no need to investigate. Standing serene amid the murmurs, the Emperor declares that this person is, without a doubt, Luana Chiel Dinkel, a member of the Frontier Count's household. Reeling backward, Hector and his wife cry out that it is impossible, their faces cracking into open shock. Squeezing Luana's hand, Sieg tells her he warned her of this, reminding her that his father and mother truly think of her as family, while she demands to know what any of this means. Turning to her with an easy, radiant grin, Sieg explains that her lineage has already been rewritten and she is now, officially, a Dinkel. Stunned, nearly speechless, Luana wonders how such a thing is even possible, and Sieg calmly notes that Clovis has long held ties with the Emperor, who agreed without hesitation the moment he heard of her. Gazing up in wide-eyed wonder, Luana meets the Emperor's knowing smirk from his throne. Leaning forward with cold authority, the Emperor addresses Hector Hugh Altamira and asks whether he has anything else to say, leaving the flustered Count to stammer a defeated no. Watching her former family dragged away in their pathetic, protesting state, Luana admits she might seem cruel, yet confesses she feels just a little satisfied. The scene shifts as a cluster of enraptured young ladies swarm Luana, gushing over her splendid achievements and begging to hear more about her deeds in the Dinkel household. Shrinking amid the crowd, Luana thinks how embarrassing it is to be treated like a famous person when she only ever acted for her own sake. Peeking sidelong, Luana notes she has never seen Sieg wear such an easy expression before, privately conceding his face really is well-proportioned as the ladies swoon over how popular he is. Approaching with a silken smile, a golden-haired nobleman marvels that the Saintess should be such a beautiful woman and congratulates her again on her commendation, as Luana falters out her thanks. Spreading his hands smoothly, the stranger suggests they slip away somewhere quieter, just the two of them, since the noise makes voices hard to hear and he would love to learn more about her. Cutting in sharply, Sieg seizes the man's wrist and coolly announces that Luana has business with him, leaving her blinking up in startled confusion. Tugging her firmly away by the hand, Sieg excuses them both while Luana yelps his name in alarm. Stumbling after him, Luana softly calls out to Zeekhart, hesitant and uncertain of his sudden mood. The scene shifts to a quieter terrace, where Luana observes with dawning naivety how close men and women stand here, wondering if high society is where people who meet deepen their relationships. Whirling to face her with a flushed, flustered grin, Sieg insists he had no business at all and simply happened to be walking by, as Luana innocently asks if he came here for a reason. Steering her toward a bench beneath the trees, Sieg mutters that whatever the case, they may as well sit, and Luana quietly agrees. Settling onto the bench, Sieg sighs that high society is exhausting, though not nearly as much as the battlefield, drawing a gentle remark from Luana that it is a strange thing to compare it to. Slipping on a polished public-facing smile, Sieg admits he hasn't attended in a while and found it tough, and when Luana insists he looked perfectly used to it, he dryly counters that he managed better than she did, at least. Laughing sheepishly, Luana falls silent as Sieg points out that she couldn't remember a single person's name all evening. Clasping her hands earnestly, Luana protests that when that man approached her earlier it was one-on-one, so she actually managed to remember him. Averting his gaze with a faint frown, Sieg mutters that it's precisely because it was one-on-one, and when Luana blinks a puzzled, he brushes it off as nothing. Leaning back on the bench beside her, Luana hums contentedly and thanks Sieg, confessing she was a little nervous and glad he stepped in. Rising smoothly, Sieg asks if she's thirsty and offers to fetch some drinks, telling her to wait here, and Luana admits she is a little parched. Watching him go, Luana calls a soft thanks after his retreating figure. Settling alone on the bench, Luana murmurs a grateful Sieg to herself, wondering privately if he noticed her nerves and spirited her away because of them. Two shadows fall across her, and a stiffening Luana greets her brother and sister with a strained, "It's been a while," inwardly bracing at the thought that father might be near too. Sneering down at her, the stepsister calls her insolent as ever and snaps that proper manners demand she bow her head until their irritating faces are out of sight. Turning calmly to face them, Luana asks whether the two of them needed something from her, adding mildly that if she irritates them so much they could simply leave her alone. Bristling with indignation, the stepsister demands to know what's with that tone and accuses Luana of having gotten thoroughly full of herself. Rounding on her with venom, the stepbrother snarls that just because she sucked up to the Margrave's family and won a special commendation, she now acts unbearably arrogant. Meeting the accusation without flinching, Luana reflects that she has worked hard in her own way these past 3 years, and that while she did promote herself, she never once intended to grovel to anyone. Advancing with rising fury, the stepbrother insists that merely bowing isn't enough and demands she prostrate herself, raging that because of her their parents were humiliated and the Altamira name was tarnished. Gazing at their contorted faces, a weary Luana realizes with quiet resignation that nothing at all has changed in these 3 years, even as they scream at her to die and atone. Lifting her chin, Luana coolly asks whether the humiliation wasn't entirely their own doing, and the stunned stepbrother sputters to know what she just said. Standing composed beside her flustered sister, Luana concedes she won't claim to have absolutely nothing to do with it, yet firmly states she sees no need or value in apologizing. Seizing her wrist with sudden violence, the stepbrother snarls at her not to joke with him, demanding how she dares speak that way about the parents who raised someone like her. The scene dims to a memory of a small, huddled figure alone in the dark, where Luana recalls being guaranteed only the barest minimum of food, clothing, and shelter, with no memory of ever being raised by those people and nothing left but painful ones. Meeting his fury without flinching, Luana declares that she has never once thought of those people as her parents, and coolly adds that she has never thought of him as family either. Pressing a hand to her chest, Luana proclaims that her true family is her late mother and the people of the Dinkel Margrave's household. Sneering to mask his rattled nerves, the stepbrother snarls that he'd never call a failure like her his sister, leaving Luana to echo the word failure with quiet puzzlement. Tilting her head, Luana asks which of them is truly the failure, noting it should be obvious since tonight the Altamira Count's family disgraced themselves while the Dinkel Margrave's family received a special commendation. Losing what remained of his composure, the stepbrother lunges with a raised fist, and Luana reflects that 3 years ago she would simply have been struck, but that things are different now. Snapping her hand up, Luana calmly declares she is not that person anymore as brilliant light erupts from her palm. Reeling backward, the stepbrother claws at his face and shrieks about his eyes, drawing a horrified cry of "brother" from the stepsister. Lowering her glowing hand, Luana explains matter-of-factly that it is light magic which does no harm to people yet works well enough to blind, and that his sight will likely be hazy for a few days. Rounding on her with a snarl of "teach," the stepsister demands to know what she's done, while Luana sweetly offers to give her a taste as well. Retreating a step, the stepsister freezes as Luana states that they're disturbing everyone around them and that this has gone on quite enough. Staggering blindly amid the flowers, the enraged stepbrother swears through the chaos that he will never forgive Luana and howls her name into the dark. Flailing about sightless, the stepbrother screams to know where she is, and the panicked stepsister shrieks that she's here too as he bellows at her to shut up. Shrinking amid the crowd, Luana thinks how embarrassing it is to be treated like a famous person when she only ever acted for her own sake. Peeking sidelong, Luana notes she has never seen Sieg wear such an easy expression before, privately conceding his face really is well proportioned as the ladies swoon over how popular he is. Approaching with a silken smile, a golden-haired nobleman marvels that the Saintess should be such a beautiful woman and congratulates her again on her commendation, as Luana falters out her thanks. Spreading his hands smoothly, the stranger suggests they slip away somewhere quieter, just the two of them, since the noise makes voices hard to hear and he would love to learn more about her.